Rohingyas are there for centuries together.
Our father, mother, our forefather is an ancestor, citizen of Myanmar.
2015 সালে আমাদেরকে বলছে যে তোমরা অবৈধ অনুপ্রবেশকারী বাঙালি।
পলিসিটা হচ্ছে এই ধরনের ডিভাইড অ্যান্ড রুল।
Their identity crisis is intentionally made, propagated and executed.
They have killed the people, they have burned the villages, they have raped the women. This cannot be a part of military operation.
You kill the identity, then you are actually also being complicit to genocide.
We don't know how many people have been killed, but we do have some idea of how many have been burnt and chased out of their homes.
The world's fastest growing humanitarian crisis as thousands of Rohingya refugees are spending a fourth night stranded near the border with Bangladesh.
Let's not forget that the whole world is watching. What happens here has global implications.
Our people have shared their shelters, their food, their clothing with these people. How do you value that?
More than 600 HIV positive cases detected.
Nobody becomes a refugee by choice. They're forced to become refugees.
Our concern is the safe return and the earliest possible date for the start of the repatriation.
এটি সম্পূর্ণভাবে মিয়ানমার এবং তার নিজস্ব নাগরিক রোহিঙ্গাদের মধ্যকার একটি সমস্যা। তাদের নিজেদেরই এর সমাধান করতে হবে।
General Nguyen, who was behind the assassination of General Aung San.
Three key ministries, Home, Security and Border Affairs, would be run by military generals.
Myanmar high-level officers of the Myanmar government, they follow the Buddhist monk hate speech.
Following recent investigations in Myanmar's Rakhine state, Amnesty International has gathered new evidence that the Myanmar military is committing war crimes and other human rights violations. The military operation is ongoing, raising the prospect of additional crimes being committed. The August 2017 mass exodus of Rohingya population was unprecedented in a sense of the pace and haste through which about 700,000 people crossed into Bangladesh, though the current exodus has placed this crisis at the center of world's attention, but neither the crisis is the first in order, nor was Bangladesh the only destination the Rohingyas were compelled to migrate. A careful study of history identifies 8 main periods of exodus of Rohingyas into the geographic region today known as Bangladesh. The late 1784, 1940, 1954, 1978, 1992, 2012 and more recently in 2016 and 2017.
Ana Rohingya kole lora de Mak Burma goi hiya gwara lora ye 1970 hat mare gwa aramata nagama sai sere go yore ana arab bada lora ye 1991 made e gya ayore o nasaka aibade hiya gwa lora ye 2004 to gwa lora ye 2016 to gwa lora ye 2017 made last ana de
King Bodapaya of the Burmese Konbong dynasty invaded and conquered Arakan Kingdom in 1784, effectively resulting in the first recorded instance of Rohingya exodus. The conquest was soon followed by mass atrocities of local subjects and deportation of more than 20,000 people into central Myanmar as slaves, and the mass exodus of refugees to British Bengal, notably into what is today the Cox's Bazar. Aung San's Burma Independence Army, BIA cadres and their Arakanese companions attacked Muslim villages on their way to conquer Arakan from British rule, whose inhabitants were driven away or killed en route. Reportedly, 22,000 Rohingyas fled to the northern part of the Rakhine state and further on to British India. In November 1954, a large-scale military operation by the name of Operation Monsoon was launched. As the military slowly gained grounds in northern Arakan, displacement of Rohingyas in small numbers continually took place. It was reported that almost 13,000 Rohingyas fled to the then East Pakistan, crossing the Naf River.
62 সালে যখন ক্ষমতা দখল হয়, আর্মি কু হয় জেনারেল নেউইন নিয়ে এনে, তখন থেকে কিন্তু এই সাম্প্রদায়িক দাঙ্গাটা শুরু হয়েছিল। 78 সালেও রোহিঙ্গারা আসছিল এখানে, তখন কিং ড্রাগন অপারেশন মনে হয়, আরও অনেকবার এই ধরনের হয়েছে। ওরা এইভাবে মানে একজনের বিরুদ্ধে একজন লাগিয়ে আসছে এটা।
In 1974, the government promulgated the Emergency Immigration Act, in which the Rohingyas were only offered foreign registration cards, FRCs, to be registered as foreigners rather than a Burmese citizen. During 1977 to 78, the government initiated a military-led program called Operation Nagamin, also known as Dragon King, to scrutinize each individual living in the state, designating citizens and foreigners in accordance with the law and taking actions against foreigners who had filtered into the country illegally. While the program was nationwide, in Arakan, it degenerated into abusive attacks on Rohingyas by both the army and local Rakhines. Mass arrests, forced evictions, torture, and widespread military brutality in the following year caused more than 200,000 Rohingyas to flee to Bangladesh. At the start of 1991, the first reports of a dramatic increase in the numbers of army posted to northern Arakan state came to the notice of the local inhabitants. Before the rain started in May 1991, out of fear, some 10,000 Rohingyas had already arrived in Bangladesh. At the end of the rainy season, in November 1991, the exodus spiked both in numbers and frequency, and by March 1992, there were over 270,000 refugees scattered in camps along the Cox's Bazar Teknaf Road in Bangladesh.
আর বসন মাঝে আয় এবারও দা তিনবার রিফিউজি হয়েছি ভুতেঙ্গের দাদা একবার 78 একবার 92 একবার
92 থেকে এতে 5 বছর পরে এই ঘটনা থই আরো তার নিজাগৈ কুলি তার বাস্তে মানুষের নিজাগৈ কুলি মানুষের নির্যাতন করে গরু চল ফালনা করলে নিলে যাগৈ এতে সমস্ত নিতে এগে যা আছে বলি ওরে মানুষের নির্যাতন তাই না ভারী ওরে এগুলো বাংলা
78 রিফিউজি এসেছিলাম মানে আমাদের চুক্তি করি মায়ানমার সরকারে এদেশে তুলে গেছে বাংলা সরকার তো বুঝি লই যাওয়ার পর হয়ে দে এবার বাদে ওরা আবার আসিয়া এই 92 সালে আবার শুরু করছে আই ফিডা থিডা খাইয়া যেগুলা খুলি যাওয়ার বসকা বোঝ না পারে এক কুলাথি এদিকে দুমরুমা ফেলাই দে ওর বাবার খবর নাই আর এভাবে নির্যাতন বাদে
মানুষ দুনিয়ায় বসবাস করতে কি কি অধিকার লাগে বেকিম বঞ্চিত জাগরি বলে আনারে তারা আনারে বার্গার খাটতে নদীত মানে খাইতে লইতে নদীত আর তো দাম চল নিতেই তাহলে খেত কুড়া তো মানে মরি তরি মানে তরি তরকারি বেশি তুলে নিতে গরু চল নিতে তারা জড়ায় তরাই খাইতেও মাইয়া বান্ধবেও নির্যাতন করছে চুলাত কুলি নিজে মারি ফেললে গুলি করি ফার্ম মাঝে নিজাগৈ গুলি করে মারি ফেললে তো আছে বহুত অনেক আছে তাহলে আনারে নাগরিক অধিকার আর ন দেব আজি
In June 2012, long-simmering Buddhist-Muslim tensions in Rakhine State erupted into violence. The trigger this time was the rape and murder of a Buddhist girl allegedly by Muslim men. Rumors and recriminations spread quickly on both sides, requiring a curfew and state of emergency to contain the unrest.
বর্মন ওরা ব্রেন কাটিয়ে রেখাইন কমিউনিটি আর রোহিঙ্গা কমিউনিটির মধ্যে দ্বন্দ্ব লাগাই দিছি এক সময় আমাদের বাপদাদা ওদের বাপদাদাতে একই পুকুর থেকে পানি খাই একই জমিনে চাষাবাস করি একই গের থেকে মাছ খাই আমরা তো ভাই কিন্তু বর্মনরা আমাদের দুই জাতিকে মায়ানমার সেনাবাহিনীর গোয়েন্দারা আমাদের দুই জাতিকে দ্বন্দ্ব লাগাই দিয়েছে 2012 থেকে দ্বন্দ্বটা উপস্থাপন হয়েছে আমরা এক জাতি আর এক জাতির সাথে মিল নাই
2012 was the mentionably a large scale exodus took place because
a Rakhine girl was raped. They spread that it is the Rohingyas raped the girl, but it is not that. Actually, the girl was raped by the Rakhine. Rakhine girl was raped by the Rakhine. So, the tense between the two communities was there in Mongdo, in Butidong. When a bus was flying from Butidong to upward to the Minbu, the bus was stopped by the mob, angry mob. And there were 12 Muslims. Those were the Islamic religious group, actually. They were brought down from the bus and they were butchered. They were killed like anything.
While the statistics show the death and injury toll was relatively split between the two communities, over 86% of the houses destroyed were owned by Muslims, making Muslims the vast majority of the 140,000 people displaced by the conflict and another approximately 60,000 illegally entering into Bangladesh. In October 2016, the Arakan Rohingya Salvation Army, or ARSA, simultaneously attacked a number of Burmese military and border guard police, the BGP checkpoints, and killed numerous officers in northern Rakhine state at the heartland of Rohingya inhabited territory. Myanmar's military response was immediate and harsh. Systematic campaign of wide-scale cordon and search of every Rohingya village, mass arrest and torture to find out militants supposedly hiding amongst them, and the brutal initiation of four-cut strategy all contributed to yet another exodus of about 87,000 Rohingyas across the Bangladesh border. After a further round of ARSA attacks in August 2017, a massive military crackdown was initiated against Rohingya inhabited territories, and the result was catastrophic. Almost half of the entire Rohingya population of Rakhine state had fled to Bangladesh. About 416 villages were completely destroyed or damaged. Possibly thousands of Rohingya women and girls were raped, and all perpetrated by Myanmar military.
In the 2017, what happened? It is the largest, you see, the refugee crisis at the moment in the world. World never have come across this large scale of refugees nowhere.
The worst form of exodus and perhaps the worst form of genocide in Myanmar and in the regions since 1971 was the 2017 August, because here there was killing, murder, rape, looting, and burning of their houses and businesses in the Rakhine state. As a result, we saw overnight a wave of Rohingyas crossing over to Bangladesh with barely anything in their hands.
25 আগস্ট 2017 সালের ঘটনা তো পৃথিবীর সবাই জানে যে হঠাৎ রাতের 1টা বাজে মায়ানমার সেনাবাহিনী বিজিবি সবাই মিলে আমাদের প্রায় 700 গ্রামের উপর অ্যাটাক করে ওরা আমাদেরকে ধ্বংস করে দিয়েছে, যাকে পাইছে তাকে হত্যা, তারপর নির্বিচারে গুলি, বাড়িঘর আগুন। তখন এমন পরিবেশ যে যেদিকে পাচ্ছে ওদিকে পালাচ্ছে। তা আমরা যারা আসছি এই জায়গায় পর্যন্ত বাংলাদেশ সীমান্ত পর্যন্ত আসতে প্রায় 60 কিলোমিটার 80 কিলোমিটার বড় বড় পাহাড়, কাদা পাহাড় অতিক্রম করে আসতে হয়। ওই সময় আমার 8টা বাচ্চা আছে, আমি 2টা কান্দে করে নিয়েছি, আর বাদ বাকি আমার গ্রামে রাখি আসছি। ওদের কি অবস্থা আমি জানি না। এমন একটা দৃশ্য আমাদের উপর চলে গেছে যে এখন মানে কল্পনাই করাই মুশকিল। পৃথিবীতে এমন ঘটনা মনে হয় আর কোনো জায়গাতে ঘটেনি।
In the process of exodus, many of them also died, perished. We know that. Some drowned, some died from injuries, some died from disease and illness, and many children had to be carried, many children perished also. So that was the worst scene of a mass exodus of a group of people because of the military action of the government.
Counting the figures of previous exoduses, nearly 1 million Rohingyas are now confined within 6,500 acres of patchy land in the southern part of Cox's Bazar, with an uncertain future ahead of them. It was clearly evident that save the 2012 communal riot, military operations directed against the Rohingya communities were the contributing factors to their mass exodus. Thus, questions can surely be raised whether those operations were designed specifically to achieve such objective, that is, evicting the Rohingyas from their land.
This exodus, it is unbelievable. unseen in the world history. There's thousands and hundreds of people are coming, running for life and life. One thing I must say, this exodus is a little bit in the history. If you go back to the history, it's a different one. These sorts of refugee crisis, because wherever it is took place, it is due to the confrontation between the two group of armed clash and going between the two parties. So in between, people, those who were caught in the line of fire of two parties, they ran away from that area to save their life. They took shelter. But here, the army of the country itself launched operation against the civil population, having without any resistance. No armed resistance was there. The houses were burned. These burning houses and demolishing the bulldozed the villages, it proves that their mindset, they have set their mind much before to make these people refugee and for longer period.
The exodus in 1978 and 1992 happened when a military government was in power in Myanmar. In 2017, it happened under a civilian elected government in Myanmar, a democratically elected civilian government in Myanmar. And I use the word democratically very cautiously here, because the constitution under which this government has been elected and is in office is not actually truly democratic. There is a massive military control of this government. As part of the constitution, it is a military-controlled civilian government, a civilian facade, but the main power is with the military.
On September 16, 2017, Burmese Army Commander Senior General Min Aung Hlaing, in a Facebook post, described then ongoing operations against the Rohingyas as unfinished business dating back to World War II. The near-historic enmity of Tatmadaw towards the Rohingya communities had gradually shaped its policy of evicting these people in totality once the right opportunity arrived, and the incident of 25th August 2017 gave them that one opportunity they had been waiting for so long.
এই জায়গাকে নোমেস লাইন বলা হয় তুমরু রাইট গ্রামের সীমান্ত পিলার 34 হইতে 35-এর মাঝখানে যে দুইটা বর্ডার পিলার আছে 34 হইতে 35-এর মাঝখানে হচ্ছে আমাদের শিবিরটা প্রায় 1.5 কিলোমিটার লং। ওখানে আমরা অবস্থান নিয়েছি। এটা সম্পূর্ণ মায়ানমারের। আমাদের যারা মৃত্যুবরণ করে ডেড বডি হয়, আমাদের নিজস্ব একটা ওখানে কবরস্থান আমরা 19টা টিলার মধ্যে, যেন আমরা নিজেকে নিজে আমার ডেড বডিটা যেন 2 হাত কবরের জায়গা আমি মায়ানমারের মাটিতে পাইছি, ওরকম করে আমরা জন্মভূমিতে আমরা ওরকম করে দিই।
The Bangladeshis know better than most that this is a group of people who have come and crossed the border and come back again a number of times because conditions and the root causes of the problem have not really been addressed in Myanmar.
65,000 women came as pregnant, very unlikely in anywhere in the world. I mean, we have Syrian refugees, we have Palestinian refugees. You won't find anywhere that a group of people, a community people are socially in such kind of situation.
Why is it that the Rohingya people have been coming to Bangladesh since the 1970s? They came in 1978, they came in the early 1990s, they came in the 2000s, they came in 2012 in significant numbers, and in 2016 a rather large number came, and then in 2017 most of them came to Bangladesh. So if we don't want to see this continual cycle of human tragedy, we have to address the root causes why people are fleeing. The underpinning of human rights, their ability to be recognized as members of Myanmar society, to exercise basic rights, to be able to move freely, to have jobs, to have medical care, to go to school, and to have citizenship in their own country. So unless these things are addressed, it's going to be very difficult to see a permanent solution for the Rohingya people, and this is what we work towards.
Bangladesh's hosting of Rohingya refugees is unequaled in the current context of the global anti-immigration sentiment. It's hard to comprehend how 165 million people live in a land area equal to that of the state of Arkansas, where the population is only 3 million. The refugees have been crossing the Bangladeshi border since the early 90s, but this has escalated in recent years due to the premeditated massacres carried out against them.
জাপ দিয়ার আইতে তো মন তো মারি আর হদু মানুষ এসে বলে হইলে 200-250 মানুষ তো মারি গিয়ে সুগর করে আর নিজে সুগে দেখি
বর্মার মিলিটারি পুলিশে তো আর দন সম্পত্তি পুরা দি ফেলে মা বাপ মারি ফেলে ভাই বোন মারি ফেলে তো আর হন গায়র হরগিন ললে গতি নলে আর জান্নান ললে বাংলাদেশ মা ফারাই গাদি
গার বর্মা হুকুমত মিলিটারি চালাবানি বেশি আর মাঝে ধরে বেশি মাঝে বা বেশি গুলি মাঝে এই হিসাবে আর মান কি আর তার গুলি বদ্ধ মারানি বদ্ধ শনি মারি আর পাথম মাইদেশি
After fleeing from the Rakhine state of Myanmar, with its 37,300 square kilometers of beautiful land by the Bay of Bengal, these million-plus people are now living in cramped refugee camps in Bangladesh, roughly half a square meter for each person.
Rohingyas are one of the most persecuted minorities in the world.
These people are totally dependent on local charities. Either that or they'll just go hungry.
The United States continues to put pressure on Myanmar to ensure that those conditions actually exist.
Buddha helping, definitely help to those poor Muslim. So still I feel that. So very sad, very sad.
It is probably one of the most tragic stories in relation to the violation, the systematic violation of human rights.
It's remarkable that the government of Bangladesh welcomed such a large number of refugees at a point in time where all around the world we're seeing the opposite.
Let's not forget that the whole world is watching. What happens here is not just relevant to Bangladesh and Myanmar. What happens here has global implications.